as storytellers, as actors, we are just reflecting humanity, right? And why are we doing that? Because sometimes we just have to see what's running subconsciously, what's running culturally. We have to see it in order to provoke change that needs to happen.
We have that and so much more coming up in this episode. With Charlene, we're going to go over building relationships while you're in the entertainment industry, also self-taping and how to make your auditions better, and then why you might be better off being in Atlanta as opposed to Los Angeles as an actor. Welcome to Get Scene Unscripted. I'm your host, Jesse Malinowski. We are going to dive into acting insights, meet industry pros, and master the business. Don't forget to subscribe and share. We're keeping you behind the scenes and ahead of the game. Hey everyone, we are back. This is Get Scene Unscripted. I'm your host, Jesse Malinowski. I am so excited to bring you a very special episode today, and I'll dive in just a moment. And before I do, I want to talk about some of you that are leaving us reviews. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I also want to shout someone out, Emily Steele. Hey, Emily, you said the best podcast for any actor, whether you're looking to get started in the business or have been in it for decades. Emily, thank you for your review. Always good to hear from you. And everyone else, if you haven't left us a review, please do. I really do love to hear how this podcast is affecting your journey and really helping move you forward, keep you motivated and inspired. And we're going to bring you some good stuff today. So everyone, I have on the podcast incredible actress Charlene Amoia. Charlene, what's up? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited you're here. This episode is special, as I was just saying, because this is episode 21, and I did some research. When you get to episode 21 in a podcast, you become in the top 1% of podcasts because most people give up before they get to 21. So one, I just want to acknowledge that I'm pretty proud that I haven't given up. But I also feel like there's a solid lesson in this for actors, isn't there?
Absolutely. It speaks so much on just completion, but also, we want to just start always. It's like, where do I start? Just start, right? Start with just what you got and then edit and let it grow. But yeah, I think that a lot of us get hung up on keeping that going, whether it's working out or whatever those new things we're trying to do for this year are. So congratulations, Jesse. I'm happy to be part of it.
Thank you. And Charlene, I have to admit something else too. So everyone, Charlene and I were in American Reunion together. So not your first credit, but it pretty much was my first credit. I did like a ULB and then booked 9 weeks on American Reunion. So very unlikely path. I just got an incredible role. And I remember that you friended me on Facebook because we were in the movie together, and I loved How I Met Your Mother, and so I was like, oh my God, Wendy the waitress wants to be my friend on Facebook, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I just have to tell you, I was like crushing on you hard back in the day, and I was like, damn, this is cool.
Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So funny story with that, because I obviously friended you, but we hadn't met. And I kind of also had several weeks there in my hotel room, just, all right, well, I'm going to friend my fellow castmates and producers. And I had done that with one of the producers as well. And I saw him later on in the week where I was going back to LA, checking out at the front desk. And he's like, hey, new Facebook friend. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And I had just eaten a breakfast potato in the room. Oh. And so the brown part of the breakfast potato was on my big tooth.
No.
So it was totally like a Jim Carrey moment. I'm like, huge smile, one brown tooth. And then I get into the taxi and I look in the mirror and I'm like horrified, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh.
So then I go back to LA and then they fly me back out several weeks later. And I see him again, and I'm like, so...
You called him out?
I told him, I was like, so I got into the car and I saw, the potato on my tooth. He's like, yeah, I know. I didn't know if I should say something or not. We just met. So it was pretty humiliating.
He was like, that's what we pay hair and makeup for. They'll figure it out.
Right. But something I'll never forget. So
yeah. Well, so yeah, at that time you were living in LA, but since then you've moved to Atlanta. I mean, you have over 100 film and TV credits. I mean, you really have such a successful career, really making a living at this. And I can't wait to dive more into it because I love your mindset with all of it. But you decided to move to Atlanta. What inspired that? Being successful in Los Angeles, but sometimes LA flying you to Atlanta to film different things.
I was out here actually filming in Woodstock, a 6-episode series. And so I had a good amount of time here in Atlanta in the fall when it was really beautiful. And I was just on the freeway driving. And it was like I was driving between all of these trees, right? So I was like driving on a freeway of a forest. And it just felt like the trees spoke to me. Not really, but it's just like I was just feeling the trees.
The trees, huh?
It's the short answer is it's the trees.
I mean, I guess there are a lot more trees here.
Oh my God, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
It was the green. I was just like, my God, I'm on a freeway and I'm in this beauty. And it just felt like it opened me up. And then I went back to LA and you're just seeing buildings.
And smog.
And, at the time too, because it's like we had already started the shutdown and, there was a lot of homeless and it was just nature versus like what looked like just death to me. Just felt like harsh, like buildings and things falling apart. So it was the beauty of the city.
Wow.
That really made me move here.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Do you remember like what road it was? Or you're like, it was just like 285 and you're like, I was just.
No, I have no idea because I didn't know this city very well and I still don't. But it was up in Woodstock, so it was a bit north.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah. That's awesome. And so how have you felt? Have you felt like a change in your career? Like, oh, it's gotten better because of this, or it's been the exact same, like all the opportunities are the same because of self-tapes? Like, how has it impacted?
Right. Well, I think because of the lockdown, I knew it was okay because everything went to self-tape in LA, right? Like we had been doing that in Atlanta for a long time, but this is what pushed LA to do it. And then I get here and we get the writer's strike and then the actor's strike. So as far as career, it was just a time of slowing down and having more balance in my life, really. So it was really sitting into the new place and the feel of this place and starting to build community and getting to know it better. So it was really nice because it took off the pressure of I should be working hard, I should be hustling, what classes should I be in, it just took all that away because there wasn't a whole lot that I felt I needed to do. So it was a settling kind of enjoying, which I really appreciate actually. And bringing that into this time now that we're back to keep that going.
Yeah. I
wouldn't do it any other way now, actually. It was like, I feel like a lot of us needed that to slow down.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, we did. And it revealed to us, I think, things that are important to us that we kind of maybe put on a back burner in some way.
Yeah, exactly. More time with family, cultivating, deeper relationships, what really brings us joy. It's not just the jobs. I know these are highs that we get every time we get a booking.
But that's it. I love that you just said that because that's just all they are. They are just highs.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the sustainable thing that's actually bringing you joy.
100%. And I think the more you book, the more you realize that. Because you get the hit just like you would of any drug. You get that high. And then you do the job. And sometimes it's a great experience. And sometimes it isn't, right? And then often there's the letdown of, oh, now what? And it's such a roller coaster. And I think that it isn't sustainable, just like those kinds of like romantic relationships are not, right? Where they're like explosions and all the big presents. And it's like, yeah. And then it's awful too. And it's like, no. Let's just find the happy medium.
Totally.
Let's appreciate the small things and the small moments. I think it's where it's really at, authentic. small relationships, not small relationships, but it's just like the walk that I do with my dog in the morning.
It's those like small moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So with your career then moving from LA to Atlanta, how do you balance being able to having like a good presence in both markets?
Yeah.
Is it just based on your history essentially, or do you mainly focus on Atlanta and the Southeast now? How do you say like I'm going to try to work in all the markets?
I don't necessarily say that. I just look at whatever opportunities come in and take that as where I should be or not. So, I do have a job in LA coming up. I'll be going out next week. And that was someone who wrote a part for me. And it just, okay, like that. And that happened because I actually did a play with this guy years and years ago. It was Reasons to Be Pretty by LaBute, which it was an amazing experience because I'm just like flipping out on him. And it was so funny because I'm just all emotional as we can be at times. And he's just like, huh? But we had so much fun doing it because the way LaBute writes, it's this constant back and forth and very quick. And he's like, I just had your voice in my head when I was writing this. We kind of wrote a part similar. And, I have a place there still. And so, when the opportunities arise, I go there.
Awesome.
Otherwise, I kind of want to be here. This feels like home now.
Here at Get Seen Studios, I believe we really specialize in helping actors get agents. And so my favorite challenge is coming up, everyone. And for a limited time, you could get this 6-workshop series that's live for only $28. It's our Get an Agent Challenge, everyone. It's 2 weeks, 6 workshops, all live online. Now, if you miss anything, don't even worry about it because everything is recorded. But what this 6-part series really focuses on is gives you every tool and tactic you need to get an agent. And we're all together holding one another accountable to make sure you do the homework, you do what's needed so you can get an agent. Everyone, I love this challenge so much because people that have been looking for agents for 2 years get them in 2 weeks. It is unbelievable. So again, everyone, for a limited time, it is only $28. So grab your spot right now. You'll see the link in the pinned comments below. I cannot wait to see you there. Grab your spot for our Get an Agent Challenge. That's awesome. You said like when they come up, like wherever the opportunities come is kind of like what you're like essentially ready for. So then do you ever kind of take stock at, I haven't been getting many opportunities from LA. I need to put more effort into that representation, or, hey, Atlanta seems to be slowing down, or I'm not getting in front of these commercial casting directors or this specific casting director. How do you evaluate where you want to be putting your energy?
I think I do take note of these things, but I don't necessarily do something about it immediately. It's when the opportunities aren't happening for a long time that maybe then I will have a conversation with someone or think about if this relationship is still working. But I think because of what we talked about early on in this episode, having the balance and allowing space for other things I'm also trying to cultivate in my life, that I just look at everything, because sometimes it works out where I'm really busy with some personal part of my life, and it's giving me space for that. So I would say I would answer that question a lot differently earlier in my career, because I was much more about making it happen, where now it feels more important to me to allow space and open up to receive what's appropriate or right for me. And I do think there's things that just are right for you. And I could hustle more in certain areas, but that takes a lot of energy, and it's like the yin and the yang, right? So I could put more there, and I've done that in my career where the other side was just lacking and I had less peace. So if there was a casting director, however, that I had never met or wasn't bringing me in, to just get into that more. I would look at that and then think about, well, maybe should I do a class? You know, like you offer these amazing classes at your studio where casting directors come in. Is there something I need to do to develop this relationship more? Or maybe it's a conversation with my agent. Are they not calling me in? Have I been submitted for this stuff? So,
I mean, I love what you said so much though about the having other things in your life.
mm-hmm.
And I think because we're so zeroed in on things that we want sometimes that we get blinded by other things. And so I just love that you brought that up. It reminds me of this story. There's these two guys living in a neighborhood, and the guy's watching the news and finds out that there's going to be a huge flood that's going to take over the entire neighborhood. And he tells his neighbor, hey, we got to get out of here. And the other guy says, no, I've prayed to God, and I know God is going to protect me. And so the guy's like, well, I'm getting out of here. And so the guy that prayed stays, and the flood comes, and he goes to the top of his roof, and he's praying, and he's like, God, I know you're going to protect me. And then somebody comes by on a boat, and they're like, hey, I got you, come on. And he's like, no, God's going to save me. And the guy's like, no, get in the boat. He's like, no, I've prayed to God. He's going to save me. And the guy in the boat finally leaves. Then a helicopter comes, puts down the ladder. Hey, get up. And he's like, no, God's going to save me. Finally, he ends up dying, and he goes to the gates, and he's like, God, what the heck? Why didn't you save me? And he's like, I gave you a newscast, a boat, and a helicopter. And so it just reminds me of like, how often are we like, man, I wish I had more balance. I wish I had more time. I wish I could go to the park. I wish I could go on the walk. I wish I had more time to get a dog, have a child, devote things to a relationship. And then when things slow down on the audition front, you're like, what the hell is going on? And you're so mad. And it's like, is that actually what you wanted, but you're not seeing it?
Yeah, that's real good, because sometimes we don't even know what's like running in the subconscious. Like, what do we really deeply want? Because that could be sabotaging what we're saying that we want.
Yeah.
Because maybe you don't really want to be famous, Like, I know I've never wanted to be famous, because it felt like it would take away your anonymity, right? It would take away a certain quality of life. And I do feel like on some levels, there was times where I'm like, well, I want to be a series regular. But I had this other thing that I was like, I also just want more full life. I want a life where I can hide, where I'm not exposed all the time. And so I think maybe I needed to get clear on exactly what did I want this relationship to be in this business. And being a working actor or being a side character was what I got clear on versus like the star.
And what about, I think this is so important in the sense of like allowing that to change.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, I wanted to be a series regular. And since then you're like, you know what? Maybe, I mean, if that happens, maybe great, but maybe not too. Like, how are you okay with allowing that to be okay, but then also not feel like you're copping out on your dream?
All you have to do is like read some celebrity stories, that like, it's like Jim Carrey's famous quote, I wish everyone can get rich and famous, so they'd realize that's not the answer.
Yeah.
You just look at, it's a real there's a lot that comes with that. And so I don't feel like it's a cop-out. I actually feel like, I have been honoring what was going on deeply within me the whole time. But I did get frustrated with myself when I felt like on the exterior, I was just like, series regular. Why is this not happening? But yet all these other things were cultivating that really felt more important to me.
And they are. I mean, they really are.
They are. I mean, I think so.
And you're right. It's when you talk to a younger actor, you know, I feel like they just don't get it. But I feel like what you said earlier was so true. It's like as you book more, you realize, oh, that's not it. You know, it's all the other things. And so and you've booked so many jobs, I think it allows you to, like, it gives you more clarity on, like, if it happens, great, but like there's so many other things that I want to do, that I want to be, that I want to grow, that fulfill me, that bring me joy.
Yeah. And I don't think I was ready either earlier. Like, I feel the thing about change and growth and just maturity, really, like, I feel like I could handle things well now that, you know, sometimes when you hit success so early, you know, you can just get thrown into so many things that you just don't have the foundation for or the maturity to really not go into a spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been the beauty of it. Because now, you know, I've done a couple series regulars and smaller things, and it's been a lovely experience. It wasn't, number one, it didn't mean what I thought it would mean.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's just because my life is more full now and not so narrow focused. But two, I feel like I have grown in so many ways that I can handle what obstacles may come in because of it now.
Yeah. I feel like you're so good at cultivating relationships in the business. And so I wonder, does it have to do with kind of like how you see your journey now, or is that something you've always been good at or practiced? Yeah, I just remember, you know, I was invited to your engagement party, and like Mark Fincannon was there, and I remember talking to a group of people, and then when we're like, oh, well, how do you know Charlene, or how do you know Zach? And like, yeah, it was like, oh, I was an executive producer, or I was a director, and it was like all these people that I was like, oh my gosh, like every type of person from the industry like was there and supporting you and just kind of loving on you. And so I found that pretty special. And so I was kind of wondering, is that something you like really focus on, or that's something that comes naturally, or how has that like really fostered?
I think what I focus on is authentic relationships and real connection. And with some people, you're going to get that, and some people you're not, right? And some really important people that you find extremely impressive just might not be your tribe, right? So I just think it's not a focus on I need to network or really nurture this relationship so much as what's authentic here. Where do we connect? And if that's there and that's being cultivated, it just happens naturally. But it's also letting go of the ones that aren't. So you saw relationships that they're just genuine connections. But there's a ton of people that I've worked with that wasn't really there for. And so that's just a job that you do your best work and think it and move forward.
I think that, yeah, I think that's such a great awareness. How can we improve that awareness, right? Because if we're going on set, we're like, all right, I want to network, I want to make some connections or whatever. And so you want it to happen, right? So like at what point are you like, I just need to give it a little extra love or a little extra effort, as opposed to, all right, fine, I guess it's not happening like I hoped.
Yeah, well, it's like a giving and receiving. Like, so you go in maybe with that intention, and but also you have to allow for it, because it's like as if you were going to go chase a girl. If you just throw yourself on her, she is going to be like, "Whoa, dude, get away!" Right? You have to see if there's a chemistry. So, I think it's the idea of putting out that intention, but then letting it go with like just something as simple or something better. Like, I really want to develop a relationship here, or something better, you know, on this show, or something more appropriate for me. So it gives the space and the room for the correct relationships, because you don't want to waste your time hanging out with someone who you don't genuinely like.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That's such a good point.
Or theirs. Or it's like forcing a relationship. It's like we could go find our people that we're like laughing with all the time, you know, or like, How can I be of service in your life, Jesse? You know, how can I help you? And it's certainly not me forcing myself in your circle. if you're not vibing it, there are some people over here that I really feel like I can serve or I could build something with. So it's the idea of putting it out there and also leaving the space for what's right to stay and what's not going to stick to let go of.
What about the side of this coin that's like maybe hurting my self-esteem because like I want to be part of that group and it's not vibing, like maybe you're saying?
Why do you want to be part of that group?
I guess we might say we want to be part of the group because that's what success looks like. And we're like, if I can be part of that group, then I'm going to step into success easier, better, faster.
Right. I think that that's worded really nicely because a lot of times we think success is one thing. But, at the end of people's lives, what success really looks like and what their biggest regrets often are just not loving their people more, spending time with their loved ones more versus working so hard or putting another hour at the office. So I think it's evaluating what is success, and that is really like peace, joy. Are we happy? Yeah, we want to keep growing and we want to keep getting on bigger sets or bigger, we want to keep elevating, but it's like the cool clique at school, right? So maybe that's the hot show that you love and really want to be on, but maybe you're just going to serve better on this one over here.
The drama club. Yeah. The drama nerds,
but then you're
right?
speaking to the people who maybe feel like outsiders. And maybe that is really going to speak to that viewer that's going to change something in their day.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of trusting that we are where we're supposed to be and just loving the person in front of you.
That's incredible. Yeah. Speaking of loving the well, I guess, I mean, I do love you, but I was like, oh, that's not going to come out right at all. But kind of going back to your engagement party and then having your now new spouse on this journey, and I know you guys have been together for a while, but can you talk about the relationship of being able to balance a relationship while also the ups and downs and craziness of the career and how you do that and things that you've been improving along the way?
Right. Well, I'm newly married.
Yes.
So I'm certainly figuring
Congratulations.
Thank you. I feel very fortunate because although Zach is not in our business, he loves story and he's always loved story. And so, as anyone who's dated an actor knows, like suddenly you become their reader for auditions, right?
Yeah,
so you just get thrown into that. Yeah. And he, in the beginning, was like, oh, this is so fun,
Now he's like, oh, God, another one.
However, what happened for him because of it was he started writing scripts, like just read Save the Cat. And now he's written like 6 scripts and they're really good.
Wow.
So I'm like, dude, I think this is your gifting. Like, he loves content. He watches so much more than I do. Often when we read scripts, he can do the script analyzation a little bit better than me because he just watches everything. So I feel blessed in that he loves story. So he kind of supports it. And we're just figuring out what the balance is along the way. It's been quite easy because there's been such a break and work for actors up until recently.
Right. How do you, because sometimes a lot of auditions can come at once. And, this is one of the things that Candy and I like to teach in this workshop we do called Harmonious Relationships. But it's balancing with the person that's not in the business, but you're just asking for things because they're helping you with running lines, self-taping. Yeah. Is that something that like you bring awareness to, that you're like, oh, he's taped me 5 times this week. I have to do something to make him feel loved and supported and appreciated. Or is that something that comes to mind to you? And how do you maybe work that out, or what's going through your mind?
I do feel like a little indebted to the amount of time he has doing my self-tapes with me. He does not, put that on me in any way, like, you need to do this for me. Like, but I do feel like there's certain areas of where he really wants me to go to this place, which isn't like my favorite place, where I'm like, okay, it's just how do I be there for him and his interest in this thing?
Yeah.
For example. So it's just, I'm aware of what you just brought up, and I'm going to continue to try to improve on that as well as I go. But like, yeah, how can I be there for him in things that I'm not interested in as well?
Yeah. And I just think that's so important. And I mean this in the best way possible, but as the actor, we're like a little self-absorbed, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have this audition that I need to do, that I need to get self-taped, that I need to memorize, that hopefully I need to book. And by the way, you're here, so help. And so, yeah, it's bringing that awareness to, we'll go to that place even though I might not want to. And, he wants to watch the game. I'm not necessarily into that, but I will say yes, but I think it's just like, how can we be more aware of that, so then they feel good in those times when they're really helping us in a big way?
That's true. Yeah. I'd love to ask you the same question, how you guys do that. Or is it different because you're both actors?
It's different because we're both doing it, yeah.
Well, what if one of you is getting way more auditions?
If one of us is getting way more auditions, I would say the best thing that, like, if I'm getting way more auditions, the best thing I can do is be as prepared as possible.
Yeah.
So it can be as fast as possible and done. Sometimes Candy and I will joke that we're like, yes, I'm here for you, but like, I don't want to do this either, and like, we'll be honest about that sometimes. But, it's kind of like, it's, I would say, just being as prepared and like organized, so like, put it in our calendar so we know that the time is blocked off, and then showing up so we're not doing a bunch of takes.
Yeah, I do. Right, which is so good. Just knowing your lines, being prepared, so you're not also taking their time on this stuff that you can do on your own.
Yeah. And I think there's like moments that it's like, like, we're doing it together. This is fun. And I'm interested in your notes and your feedback. So I didn't do a lot of work into this because I know you're going to be there for me. Like, I think there's those moments, but then there's also the moments of like, hey, like, I'm slammed. I don't have the time. Like, I'm literally just reading and hitting record, and I'm like giving you nothing just because I don't have it in me today. And then I think also kind of like being open to that too. Sometimes we'll be very collaborative, and sometimes like we'll hit record, and then when they're coming to look at it, like, I go sit on the ground and like don't even look at anything. And I'm like, whatever you want another take, we'll do it. If you don't, if you want notes, I can come up with something. Like, so I think it's also like balancing that and knowing that each taping session actually can be like a little bit different. It can be super collaborative all the way to don't say anything.
Right.
And like literally just be the reader, and that's all.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that too. Like with Zach doing it, like sometimes I know like he's not here at all. He's in his phone the whole time, and it is a little bit harder, but I have to just be thankful that he's doing it. And I also say to him, if there's ever a time you really don't want to do it, I will go get it taped. Because sometimes I need something from the other person.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think, and I would be giving myself this note, but I do think there's probably like some power in switching up your reader, switching up who you tape with. I've known some actors that I feel like have found some success doing that. Like, they tape with the same person for a while, and they're like, now I'm just going to start taping with other people. And then all of a sudden stuff kind of begins to happen. They start like getting bookings, and it's like, it's just kind of interesting. Is it like, did that person have some special note, or was it you had to show up differently? You weren't as comfortable, so that's why you were better. It's interesting on like, I wonder what it is, but I feel like I hear successes of that a lot, of like someone taping outside of their comfort zone. Not that it's super uncomfortable to tape with someone else, but it's just different if I'm taping with Candy or taping with Zach, that something kind of changes.
Yeah. Or if you're paying for it,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to definitely show up differently if the minutes are your dollars.
Right.
So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. It's interesting though, because I'm also like, I'm in the belief of like well, no, I think you can do both actually. It's like, I'm in the belief that like you need to have your own taping setup so you can be ready to go at any moment. But then also, if you like in your situation, like go pay for a taping, you're going to show up a little bit differently and probably learn something during that session.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How have your auditions kind of evolved throughout the years from being in person in LA to now auditioning across the country, but via self-tape in your house?
That made a big difference actually, because with the in-person auditions, often we'd get them the last minute and, it's the next day. And you really get one take. So my preparation for those was really intense. I would spend the whole day on it really and really make choices, very clear choices on each section and also in case I had a bad reader, what that person would be like in my imagination. So it felt more labor intensive in that way with the time constraint and knowing you have one shot and that's it. There's something about the self-tape that is just more relaxed altogether because if you flub a line or whatever it is, you can just start over.
Yeah.
So, or you could try a bunch of different choices and see what's working. With that, there is the opportunity to keep going forever and drive your reader crazy.
Totally.
And also, in some sense, drive yourself crazy because then you got to look at all those takes. And when I've done several takes, sometimes I go back to the first or second one because there's a spontaneity.
So often.
It's so alive. It's like, that was good. Why did I just do it,
Yeah.
5, 10 more times, whatever it was. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like if you're in a taping session, you're getting to like 10, 11 takes. It's kind of like the, if you like say a word like 100 times, you're like, is that how you say the word? Like, what's going on? Like all of a sudden everything sounds weird. I feel like that's what happens with a take too. You're like, is it better? I don't even know anymore.
Right.
And yeah, then you're like, just go back to the second one. That one was probably the best one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Back to kind of, and this is probably a good taping note for people. This is something Candy and I will do. If we're like, I'm going to do it again, we will call each other out and say, what are you going to do different? Because we're like, I'm not doing it again if you're just doing it for fun. Like, so specifically, what are you doing that's different?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we can get stuck in that. I don't quite like it. Let's just do it again. And it's like, if you don't have a very specific plan on what you're doing and what's changing and what you're trying to do, what your actions are, what your wants are, like, you're just going to do the same thing. And that's why people get to 15, 16 takes, I think.
Right. Yeah. I will sometimes just be like, I have it. I'm going to do one more and completely let it all go because I already have it, I think.
But that's the difference though. If I was like, well, wait, Charlene, what are you going to do different? You're like, I'm going to like not think about anything. I'm just going to like go for it. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see if it's any different.
Right.
What else do you do when you're watching yourself tape back? How do you distinguish whether or not you do need to do it again or that feels good?
A lot of times if I'm thinking about the dialogue, like if I haven't rehearsed it enough or gotten the lines in me enough, I could tell that I'm thinking about what is that word or that line that's coming up. And it's just not as free as when I'm not considering that at all. So sometimes it'll be that. Like I haven't prepped enough and I can tell that freedom isn't there. So it will be just do 3 more and then I'm going to know this. And then suddenly I'm just in the moment more. I do feel like that can hold me back if I just don't know the material well enough.
So true. So true. And then is there like how do you measure that, I guess?
It seems very apparent when you watch it.
It's just a feeling.
I think so. I even can surprise myself. I didn't plan that, something about that movement or the energy or that laugh, that was able to come in because I'm not bogged down with the next word.
And then what about because you're part of our mentorship team with our working actor mentorship, how do you see that within the actors that you're working with, and like and I guess their preparation maybe, or things that they need to elevate? Like, what is there like a common denominator that you've seen so far, and like this is what's missing, or it's just not prepared, or they're not making strong choices, or whatever it might be?
I do ask them to prep it like it's an audition for the same reason you and Candy have that going on. Like, otherwise, it's sort of a waste of both of our times.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
And I did do one self-tape with one of the girls who she just didn't know. She didn't have enough time with it yet. And so we did spend some time on just say that speech 5 times right now, and it was just something she could have done on her own. But she didn't have enough time to do it yet. So I allow that grace when there are these crazy time constraints sometimes. But other than that, if they come prepared, then I can really get in there and offer something interesting that's different than what everybody else might do. And sometimes that's as simple as quiet. Just a time for a thought between you giving the next line.
I think that's so powerful. Because like just in that moment,
Yeah.
I thought, what is it? Right? And so like as the viewer, they're going to think they're doing something. That's the thing that's so cool, right? And I love teaching this so much. Is like you have the ability to like put thoughts into people's brains, right? And pictures into their brains, right? Like you have the ability to do that. If you're really in your environment in an audition and I do something, all of a sudden you see it. You might not see exactly what I see, but you'll see something, right? Huh. And so it's the same thing with like, even just like that quiet, like you made me think what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And like, we have the ability to do that too, of if you put something like that in there, the viewer is going to be like, what's going to happen? Or oh, she's going to do blah, blah, blah. Like they'll fill in the blank.
Yeah. And they will appreciate it because we're allowing that space for their own imagination.
How do we put more of those moments in auditions, right? Because I can't just be quiet everywhere. No, right?
That would be really annoying.
I mean, I guess you could try it out, see what happens. I don't think it's going to work.
Is this guy Eckhart Tolle? What's going on here?
So how can, if I was like, I love that, how can I make sure to put that into more auditions?
It's just having a thought. It's like you don't always know what you're going to say, right? Like this conversation, it's an improv. So sometimes you have to think about it. Or how am I going to word this so I don't hurt his feelings? Or how do I word this to impress him? It's just allowing the juices inside to sparkle a little. Yeah. Because our writers gift us with the words. And we can bring them more alive. We can show them something they didn't think of yet by bringing our own experiences into it. So sometimes when you're looking at a script, ask yourself, how intelligent is this person? Is this an easy thought? Did they come up with this right away? Are they a fast talker? Do they take more time? Where they're raised is big, because if they're in the South and it's the summer and it's the heat, everybody's just talking slower because it's so hot. I mean, that's a thing. Or if you're in New York and you have a time schedule and I know you got to go out the door, and if I don't say this fast, you're moving, all these things. Or if I just had a baby, I don't really care what you think of me right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so, yeah, when you came onto the mentorship team, it was so funny too, because I had thought of you, when I was wanting to build the team a little bit larger. But I didn't know that you had moved to Atlanta yet. And so I thought you were still in LA when I thought of you. And I was like, no, I really want the mentorship team to be here and successful in Atlanta, because that's going to be a lot of our audience. Those are the people that we're helping. And so I just honestly was like, how much is Charlene really going to be able to relate with an actor that's living in Atlanta trying to quote unquote make it? So I so I disregarded you. I was like, Charlene's out. And I don't remember. Oh, no, it was you asked about the Southeast Actor Conference.
Right.
And so then I thought, oh, that's interesting. Is she here? And so then that's when I asked you. And so then I found out that you moved here, and it was fantastic. So, and you've been so great, and I love having you part of the team. Your energy is just wonderful. And I'd love to know about like the passion that you have in helping other actors and what that has brought to your life.
It's so fulfilling. It like really gives things meaning because like you said earlier, this is a very self-absorbed pursuit. And ultimately that isn't fulfilling actually. I mean, when we get the jobs, it feels fulfilling, but it doesn't sustain.
But it's like almost just the phone call. That's what Candy was like. She's like, you know, my favorite part, just the phone call. Right. She's like, then normally I'm on set bored. And then like all this other stuff. She's like, it's just the phone call.
Right. And that phone call is because you won. You know, it's like, oh, I won. Yeah. I won that race. Like, I got it. Yeah, I know. Right. So like what's meaningful and what really fulfills us, I think, is when we can contribute to someone else, to help improve someone else's life, taking the focus off ourselves. Which is, I think, good acting anyway, because...
I was just about to say that. Yeah, totally.
It's listening, right? It's allowing for the person in front of you to have their experience. So I think being able to sow into somebody else's life and pursue with knowledge that I have just simply because I've been doing it for so many more years than them, it feels like all the hardship and all the trials were worth it.
Oh, wow.
Because I can help them not go through that. Or not take as long to get there, or to encourage them. Because if you have a dream, it's possible. You know, if you could see it, it's possible.
Yeah.
And I really believe that for all of us. I do think we need to ask why. Why are we pursuing this? I think the answer to that is really important. But I really think that one of my favorite people to listen to are like interviews with Joseph Campbell. And, you know, his famous quote is, follow your bliss. And that isn't like your desires. It's very different, your bliss. It's that inner calling. And that will lead you to your correct path on life. And if that is why you're doing this, you know, to tell stories, because as storytellers, as actors, we are just reflecting humanity, right? And why are we doing that? Because sometimes we just have to see what's running subconsciously, what's running culturally. We have to see it in order to provoke change that needs to happen. Or maybe it's to like give hope during some hard times. And all of that is very powerful, right? So if your why is really to serve, you know, which is what I love about what you do here, it makes what we're doing very meaningful.
Get Scene Studios was founded in helping connect actors with industry pros. We bring in the top Southeast agents and casting directors to really help you get seen by the people that matter. And we really focus this on two different ways, everyone. In one of our signature in-person classes or workshops called the Get Seen 360, you get to have a self-tape evaluated, then you get to work on the callback, and then you also work on a cold read. You spend 5 hours with an industry pro in the Get Seen 360. And then for our online class, and this signature workshop we have is called the Perfect Submission. And this mimics the Actors Access submission process, where you send in a headshot, a self-tape, and a demo reel or clip. And so this is an incredible way to really get feedback on what that submission is looking like. And so everyone, as a thank you for listening, every single month we're going to choose one winner, and you get to choose one of these classes. Any class that you want will be absolutely free, and this will be our way of saying thank you so much. So all you got to do is head to the pinned comment below, put in your name and email, and you will be entered to win. All you got to do is put in your email one time, and you will live there forever, which means if you submit this month, you could win 3 months from now, 4 months from now. So Go ahead and head to that pinned comment now, and good luck. Yeah. I like that you brought up you do your bliss and find your bliss. How can someone distinguish that truthfully? Because I think anyone that is in this industry could say, oh yeah, definitely. Like, that's acting. That's my bliss. That's why I'm here. That's why I got to do it. Yeah. And, I don't want to say they're fooling themselves, but I might say maybe you're fooling yourself. And kind of back to what we were talking about in the beginning of like, this is just a small part of it. So how do you think we can like really be honest with ourselves and like, what is my bliss? How do I find it?
I think one way is to follow it all the way through. So if it's like, okay, I want to be an actor because then I'll get love. Right. Okay. So follow that through. So now you're on the series. You're series regular, and you got fame and you got fortune, and like keep going with it. Like go to the end and see where that takes you, because that can be one way to get into it. Just keep going to the next part. Like, okay, if you were going to, this is an easier example. Let's say you're tempted to cheat on Candy.
Right? Oh, Candy, not true.
Right. And you're like, you follow it through. Where does that lead? Like maybe this other girl's exciting for a minute and you take that action and do that. Do you love her? No. You love Candy. So what's going to happen? You're going to hurt this person that you love. You're going to come, she finds out, you're going to like destroy your life. Right. So just keep following it. Just take it to the next thing. And I think that will help you determine what choice to make.
Well, I think, I love that example. I mean, not because I cheated on Candy in the example, but no, I love that example because what it actually ended up equaling was, oh, that was exciting, right?
For a moment.
Right. But really like all in this scenario that I'm looking for is like, I just want more excitement. I happen to choose that other girl in that moment when instead I should have been like, how can I bring more excitement into my life and into my current relationship, right? Yeah, right. So it's a similar thing like with the acting thing, right? It's like, if you would just want to be, and nobody likes to hear this, but I'm like, you just want to go be an actor? I got a community theater you could go to right now, and you could go be the lead in that thing probably. You're not getting paid anything, but like, if you just want to be an actor, there's a surefire success way that you could do it very fast, but everyone goes the hard way, right? And so it's like, yeah, what is it? It's like you want more money, you want to tell a specific type of story, like what actually is it? So I think that's really a beautiful analogy of like, yeah, I would just be looking for excitement, but how can I just bring excitement into where I'm at now? Same thing with an actor, right? I'm not saying stop acting, but it's like, how can you be super happy right now in what you're doing?
Right. And if someone is doing it just simply because they need validation from the outside world, right? Love that maybe they didn't get growing up or something. If we're going to do like a deep dive, you can go cultivate that by giving life to someone else who needs it. Go helping somebody else who needs it. That you can cultivate that very quickly. And also, this is not an easy path, as you know, as all of us know.
Yeah.
And it's full of so much rejection. The thing that I love about that, though, is I think that it's an opportunity for real self-development. The amount of rejection and pain that come along with pursuing this, we do ask why. We do look at our faults, and we do push ourselves to grow. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about this pursuit.
Yeah, I agree. For some reason, it made me think of my mom. my mom always told me as I was growing up, I never liked to be told no. And then, I mean, who does?
No one.
No one does. And then she's like, and then somehow you went into this acting thing where you're told no all the time. But for some reason, it's just reframed. I don't see it as like being told no.
How do you see it?
It's interesting. The first thing that came to mind is like kind of similar to what George Pierre says when like he's like, whenever I don't get a job, I'm just like, yo, their loss. And I'm like, I kind of think the same thing. Because like I go back to my auditions and I'm like, that audition was incredible. But yeah, I just see it as like part of the journey. Like it's impossible to book all of them. So if I know it's impossible to book all of them, then why should I book this one? But I do believe that booking that one should be easy, and it is. And so that's kind of like the outlook, I guess, is that it could be this one, it could be the other one. Like I will say, I feel like one of the things that I've learned is like sometimes there's like no rhyme or reason. I spend a lot of time focusing and putting a lot of energy into like the technical aspects, so the tapes look incredible, and then I book a really good role while I'm traveling in Ireland with a brown wrinkled ass sheet, and it's like, so I think it's like it's just part of it, the rejection and the not getting it is part of it. And if you can make the rejection as part of it, then you expect it. And if you expect it, then it's easier.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, you have so many bookings. What's one of your favorite ones? Is it How I Met Your Mother? I want it to be How I Met Your Mother so bad.
You do?
But it's not. It doesn't have to be.
Well, the thing that I love about How I Met Your Mother is that it was such a joy to be on that set, and I think it really spoke to the culture of that set. That the two creators of the show, guys from Cleveland, they were both just really down to earth, great people, and because of that, it just trickled down to everybody else. And there was a really nice feeling there. The beauty of that booking was I had auditioned for a couple guest stars the episode before, bigger roles, didn't get them, came back for this episode, auditioned for 2 other roles to play, one of Ted's girlfriends. And then they're like, well, you booked the waitress, which I didn't audition for, which was one line. And, just thinking like the disappointment in that moment, and then that being such the better role down the line is like, you never really know what's in store for you. So that was such a blessing. I
life. just told that story to a class last night.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just talking about the power of one line. And I'm like, Charlene's one line as the waitress turns into however many episodes on this syndicated show. I was like, I can't even imagine how much money Charlene has made on that one line booking, of what it turned into,
Yeah.
And it's just, you just want to be the person that says yes and that welcomes that type of stuff into your life. It's like, it might only be one line, but I bet it could be more.
Yeah.
And you think that more often, it will happen.
Yeah. I didn't go in with that. I didn't think that necessarily, I certainly didn't expect it. I knew that there was the possibility. And then it happened. Yeah, it's just trusting. Again, sometimes rejection really isn't rejection. It feels like it in the moment. But there's so many times where I'm like pinned for a job, didn't get it, in bed for 2 days. This is early days of pursuing acting when it was my life.
Now you're like, I'll go play with my dog. Who cares? Yeah.
Yeah, but then another booking comes in that's just so much better that you wouldn't have been able to do anyway.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so How I Met Your Mother is my favorite booking that you have. So what's yours?
I will say that it's up there. And so is American Reunion, to be honest, because it was to be part of that franchise where I had watched those movies before I even thought about acting, and now suddenly I'm playing one of the guy's wives.
Yeah.
That was really exciting.
And it was really cool. Tom was one of the only guys on that set that I actually kind of really connected with. Him and I played golf multiple times together. So it's kind of, I don't know, just kind of interesting because that's who you were with the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. He's great. And we've worked together now 2 more times since.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He makes some stuff. So he called me in to do an indie film of his years ago. And he just did a series.
Yeah.
So I'm playing his love interest again.
In that series?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He actually invited me to it, but I think Candy and I were in Indonesia. I don't think I could go.
Oh, in LA?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I totally would have gone, but because I was like, this would be a good reason to, get the relationship back to, but yeah, I couldn't make it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And they're planning to do another season, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
interesting how things like it's like that. That was a surprise when he called me again years later, and now to do this with him. But also, like I said, that the movie that I'm doing next week, doing a play with somebody like I think 15 years ago.
Wow.
Just how just being involved, you just never know where you're going to collaborate with someone again, and you're building something together, and like how our lives will intersect, how we'll work together again, the relationships we build. It's all really cool.
Yeah.
Another one that was pretty cool because when I was in school, I just loved Clueless. I just loved Clueless. Like that was the movie I watched over and over again with my girlfriends. I mean, it's a great movie.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
So when I booked a pilot that Alicia Silverstone was in, that was the moment.
You were like, I've made it.
I mean, I texted the picture of us together to my girlfriend Courtney, and she was like, I cried. I cried when I saw that. And that was pretty exciting. It was a pilot for Lifetime, and Darren Star was directing it, Sex and the City, and I just thought, and I booked a recurring role. I just thought, this is it.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed when that did not go. Surprised and disappointed. I thought it was really, really right for Lifetime. But anyway, that was a bit like, how did I get here? Like again, before I even considered this as a career or even an idea, because I didn't act growing up, to find myself there. And most recently, actually, which you know about, during the holidays, I got a call. And I also do a lot of voiceover work. To do some voiceover on Francis Ford Coppola's coming up movie called Megalopolis. And that kind of came out of nowhere, seemingly. And suddenly I'm in a soundstage with him for 2 days. It's just like, how did this happen? Like really, like as someone who is Italian, growing up with those movies, like, how am I in the room with this man, this genius, listening to his stories about Sophia and the early days, and just, he's so great, by the way. He's so kind and humble and amazing. Like, you just think about all the disappointments along the way, and you just don't know what surprises are in store for you,
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is a great place to bring us to our spotlight sign off, Charlene. So it's 5 questions to end strong. Question number 1 is, what is something you're incredibly grateful for today?
I am grateful for my husband and my dog a lot. I'm grateful for family and friends and, new friends and old friends, people that the love that we all share in the community that I have.
Great. Question number 2 is, what is a book, TV show, movie, or event that changed the trajectory of your life?
Well, it would be an event. It was 2016, my mother passed away. And at that time, it was just a few months later that my grandma also passed, and then my grandpa and my stepbrother. It was a year of so much death in my life, and also like going through a breakup. I was just like a walking wound. Like I just, like, it was so much that I just had to stop everything because of the pain I was in. And it really took a very long time to get through that. But what came out of that time, the shifting, but also the people that got placed in my life while I was healing, who have now become family to me, I would say that I would go through it again, which I don't even think I could have said that a year ago. But when I really look at what has happened because of the time in my life that I was just so raw, and when you're in that state, you just are kind of open to everything, because I realized I just felt like I didn't know what to do. So it's very much a beginner's mindset with just life, that I just suddenly had people placed in my life that became everything to me, and changed values in my life, and it was just a time of real change and growth that I think has brought so much stability and peace now that maybe it needed to happen all at once to really sort of maybe break what I had already built to allow for something new.
I'm going to do a 2.5 here.
Okay.
What did you learn about like what was important for you in dealing with like you said, all that death that year?
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn that was like important, like as a person to like go through? Like that you had to let yourself and allow yourself to.
First, I really just had to allow myself to grieve it, to allow that room to express and move through me, and then to heal. It was a letting go of, honestly, it was just this letting go of everything I thought I knew. Tell me the question again.
It was like, I feel like it's changed just slightly too, based on what you said. So like you said, letting yourself grieve is like what you learned. But now the question is like, what does that look like? Because I think a lot of people say that, you know, but what does that mean? What does that look like?
What does allowing yourself to grieve look
Yeah.
Well, I think specifically that is, it's easy for women to cry, right? Maybe not as easy for men because society has told you shouldn't in some ways. But, you know, so it's just whatever feelings are there to sit in that discomfort, to allow yourself to feel uncomfortable. And if that expresses or wants to come out, whether that is crying or screaming or, you know, hitting a bag, you know, a punching bag, whatever that is, allowing for that, opposed to numbing out with the TV or distracting or self-medicating with drugs, partying, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's actually getting comfortable with the discomfort. Because I think that, like, it's through the pain is where you get to the gold, right? And it is with acting too. But you have to be a vessel for all that stuff. And if you don't allow yourself to actually feel the truth of your own experiences, you can't really convey it in your characters. So when we feel uncomfortable, I think people's tendency is to sometimes just scroll on social media.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get uncomfortable some more. And then maybe it's like, well, what am I going to do instead? Maybe I'll take a bath. Maybe I'll play with my dog. Maybe I'll just let myself think all these things, you know?
Yeah.
Or write them. Who knows what could be created out of that space?
Totally. Well, thank you for that answer and your vulnerability there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The third question is, what's something in your daily routine that you really love and cherish?
I wake up and make myself some hot water with lemon and take my dog for a walk barefoot.
Got to get some grounding in.
I get the grounding in.
I've heard of this from Candy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You haven't done it yet.
I mean, I just don't think it does anything. I'm like, I'm just barefoot getting my feet dirty.
I mean, you'd have to like look at the studies. You know, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But if it actually feels good to me, there were times where like I would be so much into a computer, like just like if you're working all day and you're in your computer all day, I just knew I was like, I just got to go sit on the grass. This was before I even read about grounding. I just knew I had to sit in the grass. So
do you do it after a long flight too? Candy's always like, anytime we travel internationally, she's like, I got to make sure to go get grounded. I'm
100%.
like,
Yeah. Where does she go? Does she go someplace or does she just take her shoes off?
She'll take her shoes off. And then it's like, is there a park? Is there somewhere, is there somewhere that we can go?
Yeah. It feels good. I mean, I feel it. That's why I do it. I always had a natural tendency leaning towards it. I don't know if you ever feel like kind of like out of sorts, just try it for a second.
All right. I rarely feel out of sorts, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, I rarely feel out of sorts. I'm just like, nope, everything's great. But
So
then,
good.
what Candace will say is, you're just not feeling your feelings. That's what she'll tell me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know which one's right. Either I'm just like great and I'm feeling great and I know that I'm going to feel great, or I'm not feeling anything. I don't know which one it is. I don't know which one it is. So it's having the hot lemon water and grounding.
Yeah, it's just the getting the sunlight in my eyes, walking my dog.
Could you do that in LA?
No.
No.
No, definitely not. But I didn't live too far from the beach. And so I would jog on the beach most days.
Oh, that's nice.
I would do like 30 minute jog, take my shoes off. I would put them under like the lifeguard post. And it was great.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to miss that.
Yeah.
You got to miss that.
I had LA for a long time, and I did spend a lot of time on the beach, so I feel okay. Once in a while, I'll see a picture of it. I'm like, oh. Every time I go back, it's one of the first things I do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Question 4, what is something you're trying to improve in your life right now?
It's listening more deeply. You know, it's really becoming aware of how much we're in our phones or just distracted because we always have them, you know? So it's just looking at the person and really listening. That's what I'm working at the moment. And also slowing down a bit. Like, I have always been fast-paced. Like, I get in the car and I just start driving before I put in the maps. I'm like, all right, I'll just put in the maps when I get to a stoplight.
Yeah.
And my husband is so slow that he like, it's just really funny.
Zach, she means it in a good way.
He knows. He totally knows. We've had many conversations about it because we'll park and we'll be ready at the place, right? And even maybe we're running late and he'll have to like take his water bottle out. Every single time. I'm like, why couldn't you do that while I was still driving? And then, you know, it's just this whole thing.
He's
then
like resetting.
Everything and then he can't even close the door. I have to wait for him to close the door to lock it. You know, it's just like it's funny that we've got paired together in just this one area, especially because we're so opposite. But since I told him about it, he's been trying to. I'm like, how did you do that so fast? Because sometimes I would get mad. I'm like, why couldn't I just close the door? Like, we're late. One time we were running late for a flight to Barcelona. Okay. Now it was when he had to go do we got to the airport and he had to go do like a COVID test. It was like this really weird thing that he had to do to get into Spain. So I'm like, all right, I'll get our stuff through. You go do that. I had my cousin pick him up and she's like, she drops him off at the airport. Now I'm at the gate, like holding it down.
Yeah.
And she's like, he did the same thing. And my cousin's like, did he run? I'm like, no, he was just walking. And we were like, we almost missed the flight. I just didn't understand.
But you know what? In his defense, you didn't. So he would have got all sweated up for no reason if he ran. He could walk just fine.
Yeah, it worked out.
Oh, man, that's great. So, all right, so slowing down a bit.
Yeah.
But good news. You have a really good trainer at home. So... Great. Well, last question then is based on your life and everyone listening, if there was one piece of advice you definitely want everyone to get, what would it be?
Should this be like career-wise or personal-wise?
Whatever is fired up in you right now.
I'm not doing the silence on purpose.
I was just about to be like, everyone, that's the quiet technique.
One piece of advice. Do you know how like there are like these like figurines that like in Asian culture where the cracks they fill with gold?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like this concept of loving the imperfections. And I think maybe that, like, it's just like, it's the imperfections that make people endearing and vulnerable and interesting, and to embrace them.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I wish I could think of the name of it. Oh gosh, it's such a cool technique. But yeah, there's these cracks in bowls or whatever. They fill it with gold, and then all of a sudden that's what makes that bowl or that plate or that cup or whatever it might be so unique and so cool. It looks so much cooler and better.
And valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's based on that. Yeah, it's so cool. I love that. Everyone go Google it. Look it up. Well, Charlene, it was fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. It was great.
So great to be with you. Thank you for having me on this podcast, but mostly thank you for allowing me to be a mentor in your program. I love it.
You're so welcome. We're better for it, for you being with us. So thank you. Everyone, thanks for listening. It was great to have you here. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. And if you haven't left us a comment, you can go ahead and do that now, or a review to let us know how you're enjoying the show. And if you feel like this episode was impactful to you, I feel like it will also be impactful for someone in your circle. So send it their way now. Everyone, thanks so much. We'll see you on the next one.